Great to have you with us. And in our first story, the Electoral Commission will now admit only 150 people at a registration center under a queue management system designed to address overcrowding. This is, however, taking place here in the Greater Accra region alone. The latest decision by the Electoral Commission comes on the back of mounting pressure on the electoral body to suspend the ongoing exercise as Ghana's coronavirus case count surges. But the EC has made it clear suspending the voter registration exercise now is not an option on the table. The Commission says any move to do so will create a serious constitutional problem. Maxwell Agbagba has been speaking to the registration officer at the Abosi Okai Methodist Church on how they are implementing the queue management system.
Yesterday, we didn't do it because we met the numbers yesterday. But the advice was that as of today, if at center, when you look at the strength, if you can do 120 or maybe 150, then you group them in groups of 3. So maybe if it's 120, we have 40, 40, 40. So the first 40, we allow them to be closer to the center so that if for 4 hours we can handle the 40, we let them stay. Then the next 40, they are told to come, let's say from 10 a.m. or 11 a.m., depending on the time we give them. So that is what we have started today. Okay. So ideally, we have started with the first batch that we will be handling this morning. The next set have been told. Some have left, others are just hanging around, but most of them have left, and we have the ones that will be handling now.
So you gave them numbers, or what did you do?
Yes, we gave them numbers. We have printed out numbers. If you can, I can pick a few and show you those who just came in the morning. We printed out numbers for them. So when they come with the numbers, and we know this is the number we are working with.
I was asking the other registration officer, and he's saying that because there are a lot of guarantors around, they are the ones making this place look crowded, although you've implemented.
Yes, the guarantors who are really, we need 2. So some of them will be in the queue. Then when it gets to their 10, we advise that the guarantors stay out. So when it's getting to your 10, then you call them to come in. But some of them do not want to go far. So because when they get in and you tell them where's a guarantor, he will tell you he's in the house, he's in the house. So we tell them to stay around, to just hang around. And so the guarantors are really making the numbers quite huge. But the new registrants are just a few.
Now, persons alleged to have assaulted MPP agents at a registration center in the Akan constituency and others suspected to be non-Ghanaians in the process of getting registered for the December polls have been admitted to bail after they were arraigned before the District Magistrates Court at KJB on Monday. 2 of the suspects connected to the assault case have been admitted to a bail amount of 10,000 Ghana cedis, only with 2 sureties. Correspondent Peter Senu has more.
4 other individuals are also on bail on suspicion that they are not Ghanaians. Immigration officials on duty at the Tabotoji Registration Center are said to have pulled them out of the queue on suspicion that they are not Ghanaians, according to the facts presented to the court. The suspects were picked up on Friday and Saturday, respectively, but were kept beyond the mandatory 48 hours, which the court reminded the prosecutors of Supreme Court's decision to arraign for sittings even on Saturdays in such matters. Wives of 2 of the young men came visiting after the 4th day. They said they have missed their husbands. The suspects have been admitted to 1,000 Ghana cedi bail term and passport-sized pictures submitted to the courts. Victor Kwajogan Adaudu is the counsel for the suspects. He has been speaking to Joy News.
So as a duty and as a son of the soil, it is my duty to also make sure that my people register and also go around. So it was in the course of it that it came to my attention that some of the people within our community, especially the Ewes who live here, there had been suspicion that some of them are Togolese. And they've been pulled out of the queues that they cannot register without even asking them their citizenship, proof of citizenship or anything. And I think some were arrested on Friday by the immigration who pulled them out of the queue from Tabon Toji. And I think that is why from Friday till today, I deemed it necessary to come that. And from their own fact, it is just a suspicion it is not that they saw them crossing border or they live in Togo, they live in Ghana. Everybody knows them within the communities, and I thought it was something that the court has also agreed with me to graciously grant them bail for us to come back.
So you think the immigration officers erred in judgment?
I think that they should have exercised some restraint and go a little bit extra mile so that they could ask from the community whether they know them and they live within the community.
He thinks those who have not lived very close to border communities would often get identity issues twisted.
You could see that we don't have a dedicated barrier or a wall that divide Ghana and Togo. So you find in the same town, one of the towns you find, we have two chiefs. One chief lives at the side of Togo, but the one chief lives at the side of Ghana. And they are the same king and king. And I think that one of the good things that should open our eyes is the porous borders that the documentary Joy FM did, the multimedia did sometime. You could see in a town, the border is in the middle of the town. How do you do this? I believe that is why when we have our Ghana card, we have passport, we have all those, you can identify. But if people who have ordinary station in life, how would they acquire all this? It's a gradual process.
Peter Senu for Joy News.
Now at the Zongo DA experimental JHS1 in the Techiman South constituency of the Bono East region, registration started at 7:15 a.m. today. And as at 8:09 a.m., 19 people had been registered with all COVID-19 safety protocols observed. There's also a massive improvement with the adherence to the social distancing protocols, which remain an issue in most areas since day one of the exercise.
The Bono region so far has 38 confirmed COVID-19 cases, with Banda recording its first case, sparking some level of awareness of the existence of the virus, receiving items including 57 thermometer guns, 25,000 pieces of face masks, and 2,500 pieces of hand sanitizers to support religious groups. Pastor Lord Nkrumah, Church of Pentecost, Banda said as a responsible institution, they have key roles to play if the fight against the spread of the virus is to be won.
Strictly, we abide by all the protocols that the President and the religious and affairs ministers has lined. The church is actually a place where people can receive hope. I know at the individual level we have been praying. As we come together, that corporate prayer will be able to help. Apart from that, members also listen and obey their church leaders. So having the opportunity to meet together in the church, to fellowship, and the church leadership coming in to add their voice for members to actually practice all the safety protocols. I believe that members will receive the news and they will commit themselves to practicing all the safety protocols.
Banda District Health Director Simon Adams expressed worry over the delay in getting results of samples. He, however, said the people must abide by the safety protocols to avoid the spread whilst they wait for the contact tracing results.
I don't know whether it was the making of the lab or because they have a lot of samples to deal with. It took 3 weeks before we had the results. So these results came as positive. But what we did was also to do some contact tracing. We've taken 31 samples from individuals, and still results are still pending. This is very challenging. Most people, I don't know, because the district has recorded the case, and still people, they don't take the disease serious or whatever. So people still don't adhere to the safety protocols. Yes, for that one I must be frank. We want the police and the security agencies to come in to enforce the safety protocols.
MP for Banda, Ahmed Ibrahim, told Joy News after presenting the items to support the work of the religious groups that the government must end the self-praising posture because the reality on the ground indicates the management of the virus in Ghana is seriously challenged.
The length of time it takes for a case to be tested either positive or negative is too long. But earlier then you could hear the government saying, oh, we are doing well, we are doing testing, it's like they were celebrating mediocrity in terms of fighting against COVID-19. And that is why we are at where we are. And it's the more reason why we are telling government, let's leave the PRO work. You see, pragmatism is the key and is the way to go. But the way we were managing, we were showering praises on government instead of fighting COVID-19. The reality is now catching up with us, and that is why we are at where we are. So when VIPs are now exiting, are now falling, now the seriousness of the situation has come to bear. And that's the more reason why I'm helping to protect my people.
For Joy News, Precious Semevo, Banda.
Now, the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, is worried there is some level of laxity in respect for the COVID-19 health and safety protocols, particularly the lack of social distancing at some registration centers observed. Accordingly, CODEO calls on the Electoral Commission to consider additional mechanisms for enhancing the effectiveness of the respect for health and safety protocols at all registration centers at all times. The EC must intensify public awareness about the movement's plan of registration teams to enhance public awareness and understanding about the mode of registration exercise so that people do not continue to gather at registration centers when they do not have to do so. Albert Ahin is coordinator for CODEO and he joins us. Mr. Ahin, thanks for your time. Shed some more light on these recommendations that you made. In the conclusions of the CODEO report, you said that generally there's a concern about the lack of respect, if I can use that expression, for the COVID-19 protocols. Explain that a bit more for us. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost that connection with Albert Ahin. We are re-establishing the connection, but let me take you through a few of the recommendations or the conclusions that CODEO has observed. They said that the reported changes to movement plans has also caused some challenges. Mr. Ahin has rejoined us on the line, I understand. Albert Ahin, thanks for joining us. Unfortunately, the phone line seemed to have failed us this morning. Let me just take you through a couple of the conclusions that CODEO reached. They said that with the security personnel, while the security personnel have been able to bring a number of violent and chaotic situations under control, CODEO entreats the police service to swiftly prosecute any persons who violate electoral laws to serve as an early deterrent to others. Also, the practice of party agents collecting voter information on newly issued voter ID cards after a person has registered should stop, as there are other mechanisms for political parties to collect information about the registration process. CODEO observers also reported of changes to the movement's plans in various parts of the country. CODEO entreats the EC to keep the public adequately informed of all such changes to the movement's plan so that eligible persons can adequately prepare to take part in the subsequent phases of the exercise. But the key part was really about the level of laxity in respect for COVID-19 protocols. Albert Ahin is with us. Now, Mr. Ahin, this was reported during the week that there is a laxity in observing COVID-19 protocols. But what's the solution?
Yes, I think the solution is what I hear the EC has even started doing. We are told, I've not been there to see it myself, but we have been told, for example, that the EC has started giving numbers to people in the various queues so as to control the movement and the spacing. A lot of the polling stations are quite spacious. They are spacious enough to allow for COVID protocols to be implemented. But the people are not doing that. So I'm told the EC is now giving out numbers. For example, if there are about, say, 60 people in the queue, they will, at a point in time, give about 20 people numbers and space them. Then the rest will be asked to go and stay somewhere, or maybe even behind the station, and then we'll call in as the others finish and go away, like they have been doing at the banks. If you visit any of these commercial banks, for example, you see that not everybody is allowed to go in at the same time.
Right.
Your temperature is taken, you wash your hands, and then you go in. I believe 5 people, 10 people at a go. I think that should be working. I've seen it work in a lot of places that I have visited. So if maybe the EC can, with the help of the police, they can do this I'm sure we'll be getting somewhere. Because that is the only red flag that we are seeing of late.
Now, Mr. Ahin, there was another complaint that the process itself is a bit slow. So that if we are going to apply this, does it not mean that we may not be able to cover as many people at the end of the period?
The EC itself said, for example, that they were going to register between 80 and 100 people from the word go. And they have actually exceeded that, even with all these difficulties. You visit some centers and you have about 120, 130, sometimes 170 registered. You see, so, and we also said, I think I've said it in one of the stations, that they should educate the people so that when they are going, they can write their names, the father's name, the mother's name, and any other particulars that are going to be needed. So that as soon as they get there, they hand it over to the clerk who is writing the name. Then it will speed up the process. You see, if we can do this, and then space, let people go in 10 at a time or maybe 5 at a time, I think we should be able to do what we really want to do to achieve the same purpose. And it's better to delay than to catch the COVID.
What do you make of the Electoral Commission's position that halting the current ongoing process cannot be an option, and that that would mean that we'll have a constitutional crisis? You have experience with working with the EC. Would you agree with this position?
Well, if they were to do halting, I don't think that is the right thing to do now. Kodil, for example, was saying from the word go that they could use the old register. Then maybe with the arrival of the materials and the BVDs after the election, they can now take their time and do the registration. But now this wasn't done. We are in the registration already. I don't think that we will stop and then, go back to the old register. I think we should rather make sure that we stick our necks out, obey the protocols, do with it once and for all. I don't think we need to step back. Once we've entered into the whole process, it will be a waste of money and nothing.
Even if it costs human lives?
With human lives, that of course the doctors have already mentioned it. The doctors have mentioned that with the way people are behaving, and I agree with them. If we should continue the way it is going with people not obeying the COVID protocols, then we are in for trouble. But if we should go back and do things in the right way, in the right manner, observing the protocols. And I was telling you that most of the centers have spatial, compounds. The space is there. So it's a question of just applying the rules and regulations pertaining to the game.
Right.
And that should be it.
Mr. Ahin, thank you very much for joining us this morning. He is the coordinator for the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO. Now, Dr. Tando also said his outfit has resolved to improve the communication, especially to parents, whenever there's a confirmed case of COVID-19 in a school. He admits there was some delay when dealing with the Accra Girls SHS outbreak.
Like you said, it's a learning process and it's a learning curve. And we are strengthening our communication with parents in all schools, especially when there is a case or a suspected case, to ensure that parents will receive information not from other sources but directly from the school. Conversations with the Director General and communication going to schools is that as soon as there is any attempt to even isolate because of a suspected case, parents should at least be given some information that this is the situation, health authorities are in place. But yes, we have learned some lessons around the communication. Our press release came out on Monday evening when the news had already broke. While we are not excusing the gap in communication or the communication delay, there was a health situation that we needed to make sure the health officials handled.
Okay.
And so that shifted our attention onto ensuring that that situation was under control. We, of course, are able to juggle more than one ball at a time. But at that particular time, we knew that we needed to ensure that the students were safe. Of course, you have young 17 and 18-year-olds. It's nerve-wracking. So in terms of the internal communication, that happened. But of course, we could have done a lot better in terms of our communication to parents.
Let's go to KNUST and speak to Kwesi Deborah, who is standing by, reporting on the aftermath of yesterday's demonstration. Kwesi, what's the situation this morning?
Yes, Daniel, of course, I'm here at the KNUST JHS compound, and the education regional director is here and is meeting the students. What's happening is that what happened yesterday, she wasn't able to come around, so she came this morning just to interact with the students and also teachers. So she is there at the Honesty Great Hall having an interaction. So we're waiting. When they are done and she's done speaking with the students, we can speak to her. So that's what's happening here at KNUST right now.
Kwesi, tell us about the atmosphere on campus. How are the students after this event?
Well, Daniel, I've been speaking with some of the students around, and you know what happened yesterday. That's the person who is involved, the deceased, and he's a third-year business student. And she came with she was a day student, and because of the government's directive, he was a boarding student. And what happened was that when he came with a medical record that he's suffering from ulcer. So when it happened, then according to the students, he was neglected, and which resulted in his demise. They were quite angry. They cited issues of the immediate causes and the long-standing causes also. And one of the things that they stated was the issue of the sick bay, because now when government directed that they should come to school, they are supposed to have a sick bay. Now when you go to the school, there isn't any sick bay. And beyond that, since they came to first year, they've been collecting 5 cedis from each student. That's what the students have been telling us. We have not confirmed that from the authorities, but that's what they told us. They'll be contributing 5 cedis every term for the construction of a sick bay. And there's a case where they came and the government has also directed that they are supposed to have a sick bay and they are not having it. So these compounded them. And what happened also yesterday, then they wanted to when they started protesting, that when it was this incurred stages, they wanted the headmistress to come out so that they could speak to her. But she almost ran the vehicle through them, and that's what really got them angry. And they started pelting stones, and that resulted in the breaking of the windscreen of the headmistress's car. So that's what's happened. They are quite calm, but the situation again is because there was rampage on campus, and it resulted in the destruction of activities. They've not had their breakfast. And this is a case where they are having money, but there isn't any canteen, and they're also not having their breakfast. So that's a bit of, though some are calm, some are a bit also agitated, and some also, when I spoke to them, they would want to repeat this whole thing again because they think that things have not been addressed, and if should they sit there for things to go that way, it means that their whole academic, activities here is going to be disrupted. So they think that it's very imperative that they register their displeasure at this whole thing that the authorities are doing. So Daniel, that's what's happening. Some are calm, some would want to do this again.
So I see some students, for want of a better expression, loitering about behind you. Is it that all the teachers are meeting the regional director and so there are no classes ongoing?
Yeah, absolutely. Since there was disruption of activities, academic activities, and as I told you earlier, that they are having a meeting at the Great Hall, the Honesty Great Hall of KNUST JHS. Some are there, and they are waiting for the outcome. Some of the students are there. Some, as you can see at my back, they are waiting for the others to come so that they can ask them what happened in there. And earlier also when we were around, we heard them clapping. So we don't really know what happened that resulted in they clapping. So they'll be coming, and these students are waiting for them so that they can interact with them and know whatever happened over there.
Kwesi, thank you very much for that update from KNUST. JHS campus. We will be getting the latest from him later in the day. Now, very little is heard from persons with disabilities, women, and the youth during the national elections. Now, your election headquarters is changing the narrative with its groundbreaking election program, the Joy Ballot Box, this year. The Ballot Box is promoting an all-inclusive election 2020. As part of treatment, we take you into the lives of people we hope to impact. 22-year-old Emanuela Catherine Hayford is one of such people who is forced to endure her quest to climb the academic ladder as a person living with disability. This phenomenon, she says, is having a toll on her studies. As we prepare to create that platform for the electorate to engage with their duty bearers on issues that will inform their votes, JoyNews' Emmanuel Jivenu tells us Emanuela's difficulty in accessing public places, a key concern for PWDs.
This is a daily struggle of Emanuela Catherine Hayford, a student with physical disability at the University of Ghana, Legon. She makes her way from the ground floor to the third floor anytime she attends 5 different lectures. Climbing a flight of steep stairs makes her tired and leaves her drenched in sweat. For 8 months, she's expected to be used to climbing up and descending the stairs. But Catherine says making it up and down strains her and leaves her body aching throughout the day and night. Worst of it all is when she has to use the washroom. Catherine says she is forced to retain her urine and descend slowly to the ground floor to ease herself, an experience she describes as humiliating.
I go to class panting, like short of breath, like it's a hassle. Like I basically don't feel the need to be in class because it's stressful. Even the stares alone you get from people when they see you sweating and panting. Even the stares they will give to you alone is a different thing altogether, and it's sad.
On a daily, she has to journey up to the lecture room an hour ahead of schedule in order to secure a seat. Such is her daily nightmare in a quest to access education.
All my lectures are on JQB top floor. I'll have to take the staircase, about 30 staircases before I get up there, and my class is at the far end. And with that, I have to wake up very early in the morning. If I have class at 7:30, I have to make sure I'm ready by 6 so that I'll come and take the staircase at my own pace and go and settle and wait for the lecture to come. And it's really a struggle.
Because of the daily stress in accessing the lecture room, sometimes she misses classes, and that is taking a toll on her academic work.
Yesterday, for instance, I had to miss lecture because my lecture was on the top floor, the top floor of JQB. So I had to miss that lecture because the trauma I passed through taking the staircase. Yes.
A bus for students with mobility challenges transports her to and from lectures. But days that the bus is unavailable, Catherine would have to either spend 12 Ghana cedis for a taxi or forfeit class. She admits this is having an adverse effect on her studies.
At times we'll be given group works and we would have to meet at a particular point to discuss or make contribution. And all these places are not accessible for persons with disabilities, so I would have to opt out, which means I'll lose marks there.
The University of Ghana established an office for students with special needs to cater for the welfare of individuals with any form of disabilities. The office is supposed to make sure that the school reasonably accommodates Catherine by ensuring all lectures are organized in rooms accessible to all. But the coordinator of the office says Emanuela's plight is yet to come to her attention.
Catherine hasn't informed me about her lectures being at JQB. I know about Catherine, I know she has difficulties, but what I know is that our bus takes her to and from her lectures. But as to the fact that she's at the top floor of JQB, she hasn't told me. I didn't know that. If I had known, we would have tried to do something about it. And they shouldn't wait till this is the 6th week of lectures. I mean, if we know at the beginning of the semester, then we can do something about it. But if she waits till this long, then it's more difficult to do something about it. Long term, we have to make the buildings accessible. And I've been saying that every opportunity I get. It is the law. It is in our own policy. We recently had a policy approved. So long term, definitely the university will have to make these buildings accessible.
In 2006, Ghana passed the Disability Law Act 715, which aimed at ending the discrimination that faces people with disability. A 10-year moratorium given by the Act for old buildings to be renovated to disability-friendly status has indeed not been met. The moratorium ended in 2016. Students like Catherine therefore go through unnecessary strain to access education. But Catherine is determined to rise above the odds. As she climbs the academic ladder, she wants to be aided with a prosthetic leg.
So my number one wish is to get a prosthetic leg. Yeah, that would be my number one wish right now. So to feel comfortable, walk normally.
Until then, Catherine would continue to face discrimination in the quest to satisfy her academic thirst and hunger. Emmanuel Jivenus reports for Joy News.
Now, some residents of Old Fadama are asking governments to do mass testing for the coronavirus in the slum. Ghana's largest shanty town, home to over 100,000 people, have so far recorded only 2 cases. Some residents fear the numbers may be a result of a lack of testing. JoyNews' Justice Bedu has been to the slum to find out how people in the area are coping with social distancing protocols in an area where the concept is almost impossible.
Ghana's COVID-19 case count is surging by the day. But it seems that news is yet to reach people here, Old Fadama. Nearly all prevention protocols are absent here. No social distancing, no face masks.
Where's your nose mask? I said I kept it in there. But it's supposed to be on your nose. No, I remove it. I'm going to pray. Mommy said me nose mask. Now nose mask, no, now which time? Now me real blue. It was in this building behind me that the very first case of coronavirus was reported here in Old Fadama, and that was as far back as April this year. Since then, only one more case has been reported in this community of over 100,000 people. For some here, it may just be a case of luck. They feel this community has been spared the venom of this pandemic. But for others, it is just a case of living in the land of unknown because they are not testing anybody here yet. They may just not know how many have the virus and how many don't.
Imoru Abdul Karim has lived in Old Fadama since 2007 and says he's never been terrified as he is today.
We don't do the test here. And as we don't, how will you know that these people have, these people don't have? Because we have a lot of people in our sisters, and as a lot of our sisters who they work at Makwala there. So they work with a lot of people who even travel to outside Ghana and come back to Ghana. But because of this, and they don't believe that there's sickness in Ghana here, they said they will not do the testing. So we can't even justify that the thing is in Agwese here or it's not there.
He fears the numbers in Old Fadama may well be more than is officially known. For him, Until this happens, it's hard to tell who and who have the virus.
The Kaya people, a lot of people live in one particular room. Because mostly when you get a room like this, you can say 15, 20, 25, even more than that. Some even live up to 30 people in one particular room. So there is no distance, there's no distance, everything is just close here. So my fear was that as they said we should have social distance and a lot of so on, we don't have it here, and we don't have rooms here.
Many of the people in Old Fadama are settlers who move around quite frequently. And before COVID-19 struck, everyone feared they could be one of the country's communities that would be hit the hardest. Over 4 months after the country's first case was recorded, it seems this shanty town may well have been saved from the storm. Only time would tell. Justice Bedu, Joy News, Old Fadama.
Now, all 58 persons confirmed as COVID-19 positive in the Upper West region have been treated and discharged. The Upper West Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Damien Pungiri, said so far the region has no active COVID-19 case. Dr. Damien was addressing members of the reconstituted Upper West Regional Coordinating Council in Wa.
The Upper West region recorded its index case of COVID-19, the disease caused by coronavirus, in March after a 42-year-old Ghanaian returned to the region from a surgeon in Egypt and some European countries. Since then, the region has recorded 57 other cases, some of whom were kept on self-isolation and others treated at the various holding centers in the region. Acting Upper West Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Damien Pungiri, disclosed, though the region recorded 58 positive cases of COVID-19, all of them have not been treated and discharged.
District breakdown of confirmed cases. You can see that Wa Municipal has recorded the largest number of cases so far, followed by Sisala West, and then Langusier, and then Tumu, and the rest. Let me say, as of today, this morning, none of the cases is on treatment. They have all been discharged because they have met the criteria for discharge, and so they have been discharged, and no case is active as I speak today.
He cautioned that it is not time to jubilate yet, as they are still waiting for the test results of over 1,000 samples sent for testing.
We sent over 4,000 samples to the Public Health Reference Laboratory. I don't have the exact figures, but we received around 2,000 plus. We still have about 1,000 plus awaiting the results. So it is when those results come that at least we can tentatively say all the tests that we've conducted and the screening that we have done, they are negative. Until that is done, we're still holding on for those results to come.
Dr. Damien then opened up on the challenges they face in the fight against the deadly disease.
If we identify contacts, especially for those who cannot self-isolate or cannot quarantine at home, we have designated places that we're supposed to take them to. But when they get there, they have to be fed, everything provided for them. Whose responsibility is it? We have no money to do that. And because of that, there are limitations as to how long we can keep people in quarantine, especially when the results are not coming early enough for us to make a decision.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali, on his part, commended all those who supported the region by donating in various forms of personal protective equipment and cash to support the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
We are not safe from the coronavirus pandemic yet, and so we are all expected to continue to observe the safety protocols as announced by His Excellency the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. It is now mandatory for all of us at all public places to wear nose masks, as we have all done. Let us make it part of our daily routine to wear the mask and wash our hands under running water with soap regularly as the surest way of containing the spread of the virus.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam, addressing members.
Now, close to 500 civil society organization members have launched a campaign urging the president to recall the Auditor General Daniel Domelevo from accumulated leave. The group said President Akufo-Addo could be affected in the run-up to the 2020 elections if he doesn't rescind his gone accumulated leave directive. The CSOs championing the anti-corruption fight in Ghana at a press briefing described the president's action as regrettable and unconstitutional. JoyNews' Henry Kwesi start through the briefing and has more.
We are appealing to you.
Francis. Oh, Linda.
Please, are we all set? Chants from members of civil society organizations calling on the president to recall Auditor General Daniel Domelevo from accumulated leave. Mr. Domelevo received a letter on June 29, 2020 from the presidency directing him to take his accumulated leave from July 1, 2020. The Auditor General in a reply asked the president to reconsider his directive, but in a swift response, the office of the president extended his leave period to 167 days from the previous 123 days. 435 civil society organizations members, including the Ghana Integrity Initiative, the CDD, Ghana, Imani, Ghana, Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, Institute for Democratic Governance, IDEG, among many others, have described the president's action as regrettable and unconstitutional. The CSOs also hinted they will seek redress at the Supreme Court. Dr. Kojo Ashanti spoke on behalf of the group.
As a result of the gravity of the constitutional issues raised by this question, we have to, at some point, apply to the Supreme Court for interpretation of the president's powers in respect of independent governance institutions. This is a very, very, very important issue. The arguments that are being put forward about the president's powers